Hey Billy, welcome to Airhacks FM.
Hey, Adam. Hey, thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, it was a hard schedule. It was
Yeah.
before, Java 1. We actually try to arrange something, but I have to work and you have to work, and podcast is just fun.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. No. Yeah. It took a few minutes. Yeah, but yeah, happy to be on here now.
and what was your first computer?
What was my first computer? Yeah, I did do a little research. I'm like, okay, no agenda. What are some of the questions he asked? Yeah, my first computer. I'm trying to think. It was like maybe I think my dad had like a Apple IIe or something. I think like the first computer I really remember was like a Packard Bell.
Hmm.
So way back in the day, I think it was like 133 megahertz or something like that.
Hmm.
uh,
I thought you were younger, so
no, yeah, just a youthful appearance, but I mean, you don't see it too much. I mean, obviously, not going to see this. This is only audio, but yeah, the gray hairs are definitely starting to come in, and my wife loves to point them out.
okay. So I suspected your first computer would be like maybe I don't know, more than Pentium. So something like very recent. But
No,
Apple
no.
IIe, Apple IIe is like 2000, no, before 2000, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think that was like late '80s or early '90s. Yeah, I know my dad. So my dad, he worked at the Federal Reserve in the U.S. and in Kansas City, and he was actually, I think he said like he was like one of the first people to actually like have a computer on his floor. So, uh, so yeah, this kind of goes back to like late '80s, early '90s.
Okay. And your dad is a programmer?
No, so he worked as a graphic designer with the
Hmm.
Federal Reserve. So yeah, not doing too much with the programming side of things, but he was always kind of into technology, or yeah, not quite as much anymore. He's not like still keeping up with it, but yeah, for a while there, we were constantly like buying like the new computers like every 2 or 3 years, when it's like kind of like back then when it's like, wow, 2 years later, like all of a sudden, like computers are like way more powerful than they were. You kind of remember that era where it's just like, oh wow, we're going from like 133 megahertz to like 333
Yeah, exactly.
megahertz, and gains at like gigahertz, which use.
What do I remember? I had 60, 90, 133, and 266. And then I don't know it. But this is what I clearly remember.
Yeah.
There were huge jumps. And then was the MMX extension for multimedia, which made it a little bit faster. So you are saying that is not up to date. It means he still uses Java 21?
Yeah. I think if he is using Java at all, it's probably still like a really old Java 8.
Okay.
And so, but don't wait, cut that.
Okay.
He scores.
Okay. On Federal Reserve, is it some like Fort Knox?
So the Federal Reserve is like the national bank
Okay.
of the U.S. So it's kind of like the equivalent of like the European central bank. Yeah, it's
Okay.
like basically the equivalent. They control
Okay.
like the money supply and all that stuff. So yeah, he always like to tell like all the different stories of like, because like he's like doing the graphics and stuff. So he's just like yeah, it seems like there's like a lot of money supply that goes to Turkey and stuff like that. So like you kind of try to share like all these little stories with us, and yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah. And what you did with your first computer?
Played games.
What is your favorite game?
So it's funny. Like I think one of the first games I kind of remember, it was like this game called The Three Stooges, which is obviously based upon like the 1930s comic trio. But like it was really funny because like it didn't really work that well. Like the controls didn't really work. Like because like it was a bunch of games where you had like there was like all these like different mini games within it. So like there's like things like almost like maybe like a Mario Party, almost you can say it's equivalent, where like you're going across a board or something, and then like you get on a different game. Like the mini game is just like completely different. Like the one I in particular remember is like you're like supposed to be delivering like newspapers, but you had to go like through like an obstacle course or something like that. But it's just like again, it's really funny because like the controls never really worked properly. Like I could like work with this things like I could like jump but you can't like move side to side or something. So like you can never actually get through like the entire game. But for some reason, I still loved it. I can't explain why at all.
But it's not like a classic game, so I never heard about that. So
yeah, I think actually also one classic game. Like I played it a bunch or some, but like I was really remember watching my dad play. It was Wolfenstein 3D, and so but I always remember like there's like they have like their boss characters, and like just one boss character, like if you open the door and then immediately like move out of the way, like you would die immediately. And like I just remember she's like hello, and then it's like it unloads with you on like a couple of Gatling guns. But like as a kid, like I'd be like hiding behind like a door or behind like the wall as my dad would do that because I would just get so scared.
And I know why. Your first computer was HP, and my first was Spectrum. So my classic games were more like Boulder Dash and the really old stuff. I think which was no more available on PC. So your first computer was actually a PC. This is completely different,
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I think the Apple II. Like I kind of only remember. I don't think he was really using it too much by the time like I kind of really remember, but I think he had one. But it's like the Packard Bells, which I think eventually got bought out by Hewlett Packard and all that stuff. Those are the first ones I really remember using and playing with.
And when you started to do something else in gaming, like scripting, I don't know what.
So I think that was only in like high school. Yeah, I think I did take like a programming course in high school, but I can't remember what it was. Like, I don't even know if it was like a real programming language. So like, I kind of remember doing that, but really I didn't get into programming, until college. So for me, like I spent too much time playing video games in high school. So like my grades weren't all that great. And I actually didn't immediately go from high school to college, which is, probably pretty typical for most developers or probably most people my age, but instead, like I took a year off. And I worked at FedEx, in one of their warehouses as a package handler. So I was just like loading boxes into the trailers. And like, if you want a absolutely mind-numbing job, that is the job for you, because like there is literally no thinking. Like the only thing you're doing is like checking to make sure that the zip code is the correct zip code for the trailer you're in, and that's it.
Was it 8 hours? Was 8 hours?
They did 4-hour shifts. So yeah, I was only there for 4 hours, and like that was just already too much.
And how was it? I mean, could you handle the 4 hours? It was not like completely boring. So how often you look at the watch, or you listen to music, or how to handle that?
So yeah, there wasn't really any music. So like this was 2004, 2005. Yeah. So like iPods are around, but like I don't even think you could wear that, because like you probably had to keep you couldn't not hear things, just because. But yeah, it was like there's no air conditioning, so like in the summer it would get very hot, in the winter it would get very cold. But yeah, it was extremely boring. It's just 4 hours of just constantly just loading boxes into these trailers. Like they would come out of a suit and you just have to load a box, so eventually like I did that overall for about a year and a half, but like eventually at some point I'm like, okay, I cannot do this for the rest of my life. Like I definitely have to go back to college and like do anything else. And so like at the time, like again, I talk about playing like video games. It's like, oh, I want to get programming and doing video game design. I didn't obviously do that. But yeah, I went back to school, and like I was actually a lot more focused. Like I maintained a much higher grade point average, because I actually did all the work, and I was just like, because I was like, I cannot do like manual labor for the rest of my life. So I was very determined to like actually pay attention to school, and do all of that. So yeah, I went to DeVry, which is not really the most highly rated schools. And then also kind of like once I got into my career, like I kind of noticed like they definitely left out like some certain important things. So I had to do a lot of on the job learning, which was fun. but I think it's also gave me a unique perspective. I think that was an important thing, and eventually kind of getting into my career of being like a speaker, because I kind of remember like the first year I was at my professional job, like it was not didn't go that well. Mm-hmm. But eventually where I was working at, they brought in like this really whip smart consultant, and I always kind of like to compare him. You have seen the show Scrubs, which is like a comedy show about people working in a hospital, but there's one character in there called Dr. Cox, who's like extremely smart, but then like he really gave like the lead character JD there's like a bunch of crap. Like he would constantly give him like funny names and stuff like that, but like he also really cared. So like he really helped JD learn and grow. And so that's what this guy was to me. Like he constantly teased me and gave me a hard time, but like he also really cared, and like he taught me a lot of stuff. And so like that eventually kind of also is like, okay, I want to also make sure I help other people learn and grow. And, from there kind of, eventually kind of led me to my current role of getting into DevRel and speaking and all that, of like also kind of want to, do that now. It obviously kind of helped out for me personally in a career as well, but that's kind of what motivated me to kind of get into this role.
So you were not a programmer or a software engineer in your earlier life?
No, not really. Unlike many in our career, I wasn't like reading programming books and all that as an elementary school kid and something like that. I didn't get until again, like I said, a little bit of programming in high school, but really it wasn't until college that I actually really started getting into programming.
But in you said 2005 you worked for FedEx, and then you were at college. It was like 2010. Yes. And what did you do then?
No, sorry, 2005. But then in the fall of 2005 is when I re-enrolled back in college. So I graduated in like 2008 and been in the career since then, which is like also kind of getting hard to believe that like, particularly like early on, like a lot of my friends, like I'm like the youngest of like kind of some of my main group of friends. And so now, like, also realizing, like, oh, wow, I've been in this role and this career for 17 years now. Like, now I'm like an old head by comparison to like so many other in our career. I mean, there's obviously some people who have been in, so obviously a lot of my colleagues have been doing this for 30 or even 40 years, but it is kind of hard.
So you're doing 17 years DevRel for Oracle?
No, sorry. So 17 is so like I started working at a local company in Kansas City that no one's heard of. So what we did was insurance regulation. So not exactly the most exciting. It was one of those things where I would constantly have to explain what we did because like no one would have heard like the place I worked for. But then, so I worked there for about 7 years.
But what you did there? This is like
just web development. We worked on just various web development projects. And it's also a good friend and also fellow speaker, Matt Rabel. Do you know him at all?
Yeah. He's a huge fan of Volkswagen,
Sorry?
Volkswagen.
Oh, Volkswagen. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. He has like the old VW bus that
exactly.
He fixed up. Yeah.
And he grew up somewhere in the mountains. So this is a really interesting guy, right?
Yeah. Like a cabin with electricity in Montana.
Exactly.
Yeah. I remember he was given a presentation like a few years ago where he was kind of going through like all the like old different technologies, like Apache struts and like older like source control before Git and all that. And like I remember as he was explaining it, like it was giving me like PTSD because I remember particularly like early on at this first job, like some of the ways we were doing development was just like so ridiculous because and I mean you probably also maybe remember doing some of this stuff as well probably earlier on where like like now like of course like you build, you push it to Git and you have your CI process run and then that builds an artifact and that artifact you eventually push to production or whatever. Like you would never build locally and push to production, but like that's what we did back then. Like you would build locally
FTP
and push
was
to production.
Great.
Yeah. And then like, but not only that, like sometimes instead of like just fully building that artifact and deploying it, like we would actually pull down the production file, expand it, and then like put like the individual class files that we changed in there, and just kind of like, oh my god, like
this is DevOps. DevOps,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, exactly.
But so you weren't a software engineer, so you did a web development, right?
Yeah. So I worked there for that first company for about 7 years.
Yeah.
Sorry,
With Java.
With Java, yeah, yep. This was all Java. So I've always been Java for my entire career. But yeah, I worked there for 7 years. Eventually, at one point, it's just like I just had like an epiphany, like, oh my god, I've been at this company for a quarter of my life at the time. So like I was there for 7 years. So like this was when I was 28, and I was just like, okay, I need to do something else. Like,
but which technologies you used? Struts, I assume, right? Struts and.
Yeah, so when we were first there, I remember, we were first actually on Java 4 and using things like Apache struts for like one project, and another project was like a full like roll your own framework. And then like actually this developer that kind of like helped mentor me, like one of the things he got us on was Spring, and this was Spring 2.5 at the time. And also we made the transition to JDK 5. So like even in my head, even though all these years later, I kind of think of like JDK 5 as being like a newer Java version.
It is because it actually is, because it introduced annotations, you know?
Yeah, annotations,
enums,
generics,
enums, I think.
Enums.
Yeah.
Like the enhanced for loop, because I remember the time, because like you would go online to like look up like how to like solve something, and like I would see people like use like this simplified for loop, and I'm like, why can't I use it here? And it's because we were on an older version of Java. But yeah, so yeah, we went from like Apache struts to like using Spring. This is before Spring Boot, so like we were just using Spring, and like it was definitely better. But I don't know if like if you use like the early days of Spring, like we would constantly like throw application context until it worked. Like we just have like XML application context all over.
I never used Spring because I didn't like the XML. This was my problem. This was incredible. So I was like, okay.
That was, like I said, Spring was definitely an improvement, but like Spring Boot was like when things really got a whole lot better if you're in the Spring, because like if your entire experience of Spring is this post Spring Boot era, like you don't know how good you have it. Luckily then like also so many of the other major frameworks also kind of have a similar kind of behavior of a kind of like opinionated take that makes development so much easier. But yeah, so I was there for 7 years, and it's just like, okay, I need to get out. Like I need to like see how other companies do it, because like, I think one of the things you definitely learn in our careers, like every organization has a particular way of doing things, like here, like, we use like Maven for everything and Spring and like all these certain particular ways, and even just certain ways of approaching an issue. And like you can get very siloed. I kind of actually even learned that when I was doing interviewing, where I kind of struggled with some interviews. This is like, oh wow, wait, there's a bunch of things I need to learn. So eventually I got like a new job, and unfortunately that job like wasn't so great. I was only there for a pretty short period of time, but then I eventually
was also Java the next job.
Yep, also Java. But eventually,
so why you said you were not software engineer? I mean, this is for me software engineering. You were actually doing program all the time, right?
Yeah, sorry. I'm just saying, like, yeah, professionally, I've always been a software engineer. It's just that, like, growing up as a kid, it wasn't until high school or college, or really college, is when I started programming. Like some of my friends and colleagues, like they were like, oh yeah, I was writing programs, when I was 10 years old. So comparatively, it's just this, it wasn't until college that I really started getting into programming.
But what I learned, it does matter. So I had so many guests here, and there are, brilliant programmers who really started late. And I think if you're really passionate, you can even start, after the college, and you can still become great engineer. And maybe even if you start too early, you get bored, or at least not as passionate, So I think if you stay later, it doesn't matter, really not.
Yeah. No, that is definitely true, that there are definitely some brilliant programmers that started late. I don't know if I would put myself into that group, but
yeah, sure.
But yeah, I think that does also help that like getting into later, also like working in non-technical jobs for a while was, I think, at least good to know at least how good and nice it is to be able to work in a climate controlled area all the time, and working.
Everything is better than packaging, right? Or what was your official position?
It was package handler. Yeah, just
package handler. This is actually a great name for a Java class. Package handler.
That is actually a great name.
Yeah, package handler.
But I worked at my first job for about 7 years. I briefly worked at this one other company for a few months. Really, it wasn't a great experience, so I won't go too much into that. Mm-hmm. But then,
at least which technologies they use? Java? Which Java version? Just that? Which
that place we were. Java, I think we were like Java 8. But then after that, I worked at a consulting company in Kansas City. And I worked there for about 3 years. But then with them, I worked at several different other organizations in Kansas City. And I think that was like a really great experience. It's like, it kind of gave you a perspective of working with several different organizations. So you can kind of see what are common ways of doing things well, common ways of doing things not so well. Because like I said, just no matter how good or bad of organizations you work with, if you've only kind of worked with one organization, that can kind of really limit your scope on what good ideas are or what bad ideas are. It's kind of actually one of those things. So when I was working at this consulting company, this was 2015. And this is kind of when microservices were starting to get really big.
And so you built 200 microservices for Hello World, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I built that, or a lot of organizations, like we were helping them with refactoring, and too often we were doing like refactoring with microservices. And again, this is kind of like comparatively early in the microservices world. And so it's just kind of like, oh, you need to have like a service for each kind of like different thing or whatever. And so, again, microservices are supposed to be small and everything. And anyways, the long and short story of that is, it's like, I really learned, like, there's definitely use cases for microservices, but there's also a lot of times where organizations, like, if you can't write a monolith correctly, you're not going to write microservices correctly. And now all of a sudden, the issues that you had with your monolith, where you didn't have good boundaries and like it was difficult to refactor, well, like now you have all those same issues with the microservices, but now you have network latency added on top of it. Yeah. Because like before the monolith, it's like you had like, weird boundaries and all that stuff. Like, if you have like a for loop calling and you're calling some other part of your monolith, like, okay, that's all happening in memory. That's all like super fast and everything. But you have a for loop calling and it's calling out to like some external service. It's kind of like all of a sudden now that takes a lot longer to execute.
And it's inconsistent, right? This is on top of that.
Yeah.
Because,
So, kind of from that, it's like, I became a lot more pessimistic when it came to microservices that, again, some benefits, but for the most part, I think a lot of organizations would be fine with sticking with like a much more coarse-grained deployment.
Exactly. What I did, I ignored all these years microservices. So I renamed my stuff to microservices, but we had at most in large projects like maybe 5 independent parts, never more, and often even less. So like, two apps belonging to one system. And we called it microservices. And this is I never got the idea why it is good to have multiple remote applications which talk to each other. And because there were no benefits really, you couldn't replace one microservice with the others, because most projects, what they did, they had huge Maven builds, which were versions at once. They were not even able, to deploy each microservice independently. So I said, okay, what's the deal then? Why we're doing this at all?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's also, you're kind of also hitting the right on the head that like a lot of times, like the supposed benefits of like the independent deployment and the independent scaling, like for like Netflix, Amazon, Facebook, for the thing, companies, or it's not really thing, whatever, but whatever the proper acronym is anymore. It would kind of make sense. And like they would have like that scale and the maturity maybe to actually do that. But for the vast majority of organizations is like they didn't have that technical know-how that, everything would have to be redeployed at the same time or rebuilt at the same time. Yeah. And like, you wouldn't really have like, okay, the person service, like, okay, we need to have like 10 instances of that. But then like this other service, we only need 3 instances. Like most of the time we'd be like, okay, we just have like 2 instances of everything, or whatever.
And everything talk to the same database at the end, right?
Yeah, and that too. Yeah, exactly. So like they're all talking to each other, but they're still all talking to the underlying database at the same time. So yeah, it's just vast majority of organizations just didn't even need that. And so often at the times you can't even hear from like the hyperscalers. Like a lot of times, like like sometimes, like how on resumes, like you kind of like say like, oh yeah, I've done all these different things. Like you kind of inflate like your accomplishments on your resumes. But I think sometimes a lot of organizations do that at like conferences, on their blog articles about like, oh yeah, how we refactor this and everything's so great now. We're always on the latest stuff. And like a lot of times, sometimes you get to that organization's not quite, so great.
Pretty cool. So you developed millions of microservices at the company, and then you said, okay, it's too much.
Probably, unfortunately. Yeah, at the first place I work at, like occasionally, like I know some people that still work there, and they probably like to joke that there's ever so much they'll see a commit or something from me, and they like to really blame me. And I think for some of the places I was a consultant at, whereas I made too many microservices, they're probably still cursing my name for this unnecessary microservice that I created. You leave a mark, right?
How long you stayed at the company there?
So for the consulting company, I was there for, I think, almost exactly 3 years. Yeah, that's right. I started there in September 2015, and then I was there until September of 2018, and that is when I joined IBM as my first dev role. So, when I started working at the consulting company in Kansas City, they're called Keyhole, which again, no one outside of Kansas City would really probably often heard of them. But yeah, like they were a bit, like more good about, hey, maybe occasionally go speak and stuff like that. Cause obviously that's kind of good for a consulting company to kind of have it out there that like the people that, their consultants are out there also speaking. And eventually kind of started getting into that. I also started going to the local Java users group, and also started helping out with that. And I decided to do so when I first got into speaking, so I kind of mentioned how I got a bit siloed at my first job. So I was there for about 7 years, and then it's like, okay, I need to kind of get out of this job. I need to do something else. And so I went in for an interview. And so like we first had like a phone interview, and I did fine with that. And then I went in for an in-person interview, and I bombed this interview. So one of the things I definitely remember from that is someone was asking me, it's like, okay, like, like what's the difference between a get and a post? And like, I couldn't answer that question at all. Like I couldn't tell you the difference. I couldn't tell you why you would use one from the other.
You were nervous, or what happened?
It's just my job at the time. Like I didn't really work with that stuff at all.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I did web development, but like I wasn't doing internal gets or posts or too much stuff like that. So I just didn't have to really work with that. So my first presentation I did was actually on Hadios, which is kind of like the hypermedia as a state of engine or whatever it is, where you're basically taking like all from like Roy Fleming, where like he wrote the whole REST specification. And so I took something from where I couldn't tell you the difference between a get and a post to like having intimate detail about like not just get and post, but like all of the different HTTP verbs and like being able to tell you all the differences. I mean, I'm not quite, as, fully familiar from doing that presentation, but like it's something that doing presentations, like as you know, it's like a really good way of turning a potential weakness into strength, because obviously when you get up to do a presentation, like you generally want to know what you're talking about. You don't want to just be, saying completely random things that are completely totally wrong, because obviously that's not a good look for you.
So you also read back then Roy Fielding's dissertation.
Oh, Roy Fielding. Yeah.
Exactly. This was the But this was also exaggerated in project. It was slightly after. So there were microservices, and then Hateos came.
Yeah.
And, there was like, I remember you were not allowed that post return something. So there were patterns like post after get. I think I remember there was like so you had to they were very strict. And what do you have to do? And this was the Rastafarians, right? Back then,
Yeah.
they were called all the consultants who really wanted to have a very strict rest take on design of HTTP endpoints, basically.
Yeah. So like get, as its name says, is only supposed to be retreat. Yeah, it's supposed to be at a pump. Yeah, like you're only supposed to be getting something. It's not supposed to change any state. Like post is only when you're adding something. If you were updating something, it needs to be a put. There's like head for getting like just the headers back, like all that. Yeah.
Yeah, but the problem started because SOAP was post only.
Yeah.
You remember?
Yeah.
So there was huge discussion, because SOAP was post and JSF at the beginning as well. There was just post, and there were this was huge debates in the internet.
Yeah, and so like that's kind of also how like I would do everything. It would just be all through either SOAP was a lot of it, or also like a lot of our front ends were JSP, which is like you said kind of like they were doing all posts or gets, or like it just be like, oh, okay, I'm just doing a get here,
JSF,
or post here.
JSPs were basically servlet. You could do whatever you liked, but JSF was the faces servlet, and this was post at the beginning.
Yeah, well, with JF, that's why I was working on JSPs before, like JSF was like even a thing.
JSPs were actually cool. I mean, if you did them correctly, they were okay. The problem was
we didn't do them correctly.
Yeah, if you put the entire business logic to scriptlets, you are in trouble. But
and that's what we did. Yeah, so we had a few JSPs where we got so much business logic in there that we actually hit the limit on the size a Java class could be. Yeah. So we would have to go in and like rip out logic and
was it 56K, not 64, 56, right? It was not 64 kilobytes.
I think it was. I think 56. I think you're right.
56,
I think it was
something like this. Because I always I have to check it because why it happened, because JSPs were compiled into a servlet. There was the Java code, so it was like reverse servlet, right? So there was like a huge string concatenator, and then you could hit the limit. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But and your
you could hit the limit. Well? Yeah. Like, I mean, it went well, and at least like, like everything I talked about was like technically correct. I think kind of like what you're talking about with like the Rastafarians and stuff like that, where it's like in theory, like in our microservice, like, oh, in theory, this could kind of all work, but in practice, it was very difficult to really implement this behavior and stuff like that. But one of the things was like definitely validating was like I gave this presentation. And then I went into like another presentation at this conference, and someone was giving like a similar presentation as well. And like he was saying the same things that like I was saying. It's like, okay, good. Like I'm taking like the correct, like I was reading, like I read like Roy Fielding's paper on it and all this. So it's like, okay, I took the correct lessons from it. I didn't like read this and like, completely go off tangent or something like that. So like that was definitely a validating point. But I think what really got me really into presenting was like doing JUnit 5. So,
but this was recent.
Somewhat recent. So like 2017 is when JUnit 5 started taking off in popularity. But like for some reason, like no one else in the US was talking about it. So like I'll just be like, what's new in JUnit 5? And like, so I would just get accepted to a bunch of conferences just because it's a topic that a lot of people.
And you worked for IBM back then still?
Just before I worked for IBM.
Okay.
So, like 2016 or early. 2016 is kind of when I first started doing some presentations, and then kind of started doing more and more in 2017 and into 2018. I think kind of like this is when I started doing like the JUnit 5 talk. So just like a lot of places, I would get accepted to a lot of conferences just because no one was really talking about this subject. But it's also something I think became passionate about because it's like one of the things I kind of learned is like for like a lot of the places I was working at, like we were like way behind on keeping our dependencies up to date. Like you were like, we are on Spring Boot 2.5.1 and like we're just going to stay there and we're not going to even like upgrade to Spring Boot 2.5.2 or whatever patch update because like you wouldn't know what could change. Like you could just break and like the only way you would really know if you get into production. And that's because like a lot of these places like they didn't really have good automated testing for it. And so like if you ever made an update, or you updated a dependency, that means you would have to do like a whole regression testing. And, you would send that off to the QA department and, and that would take a long time. If you had to retest the entire application, that could take that QA department, collectively 40 hours to do that. And then of course, also the whole thing is it's kind of like in that regression testing, like even when you're doing manual testing, manual testers, like you just be like, oh, like they're filling out a form on your website and like maybe they accidentally hit a space and that causes some sort of bug. And so it's like, okay, is that a bug from before? Is this new? And yeah, I mean, again, you probably also remember those old days of when everything was done manual testing. And so, yeah, I became very passionate about the importance of automated testing that, I think, test first. But then also it's like, if you want to be able to stay up to the latest stuff, like you really need to have like, if you want to do cool things of like continuous integration, continuous deployment, like the only way you're going to do that is if you have like automated tests that like your organization can depend upon. Cause like, unless you're
now I'm curious because, I never did test first maybe, but what we did, we used a JUnit 5, of course, but not for unit testing rather than for end-to-end or system testing. So in all my microservices, we we are starting with end-to-end tests, and JUnit tests are more or less optional. So if you have business logic and a little bit more complex stuff, of course, write unit tests. But I'm more interested in code coverage of end-to-end tests. It means, for instance, if you have an HTTP endpoint, I would write a JUnit test which calls Java 11 HTTP client, let's say, which calls the my service and then verifies or asserts the results. And we use all the tricks from JUnit 5. And but this is for me more important than JUnit tests because I don't know about you, but in Europe, maybe managers are really interested in statistics and numbers. And what happens there is they would like to have code coverage of 80 to 100% of JUnit tests because the JUnit tests are really easy to measure. And everyone ignores the end-to-end tests. And what happens then is the developers are testing getter setters, they're invoking getter setters, enums, exceptions, constructors. Everything is invoked to increase the code coverage, which is absolutely pointless.
Yeah. Code coverage is not it's a great tool or like something that managers would love to say like, we have certain percentage, but like it's one of those things like I have like a presentation right now about like why developers should love automated testing. And like one of the things I point out in there is like code coverage is not a good metric. And like also like there's no good hard metric that's universally applicable for what it should be because it's going to vary a lot between application to application. So like if you have just like some simple batch application that kind of just runs in the back end, like that's like we're sending out like a newsletter, I don't know, like having really high automated test coverage on that isn't too important. Like if the batch process fails, that's fine, you can probably just restart it, whatever. But if you have your payment processor, that's really important. Like you don't want to mess that up. You don't want to have it to where you're overcharging someone or undercharging someone or even like doing negative charging and you're sending money to them directly or something like, so, like how much you need to have something test.
But then I will even, try to implement a synthetic transaction, for instance, so that I'm actually issuing a real payment with fake credit cards and see whether it went through. And I would measure, the code coverage from outside. It is harder to implement, but this is really because then I'm really testing, the payment gateways, whatever. So if you, for instance, if you get a developer account at PayPal or Stripe, you get such payment credit cards, and then I will implement. But because of JUnit tests, what you can measure, the currency conversion maybe, but you cannot call the gateway, right? And this is the interesting point, whether it works, timeouts, and so forth, right?
Yeah, and I think and luckily also like automated test tools have gotten like so much better. Like kind of in the past, but I guess it's actually been like 5 or 8 years though, because so I have a friend who I'm actually gonna be seeing him later tonight for a happy hour. His name's Rob Wrench. He's a lead on Spring Security. But like way back when, like one of the things he's the one who suggested I do this presentation on JUnit 5. And then also like another thing he told me about was test containers, because like that was also like one of the big issues with like automated testing is, having a bunch of internal unit tests. There's definitely use to that, but like ultimately very few applications, like you're going to be working with a database, you're going to be working out with some other service. And like that was often very hard to do. Like for a while, for if you wanted to connect with a database and if you didn't want to connect to a live database, you would use something like H2, which I'm guessing you probably remember. You probably used that a bunch as well.
But the problem, right?
H2. Like the
H2,
in-memory
database, H2, yes. H2 and DB and H2,
Yeah, and they're a net, not too bad, but like they would only simulate that. Like if you're using an Oracle database or MySQL or Postgres, like it would simulate the behavior, but it couldn't do it perfectly because it was, just trying to like simulate it. So like if you had like complex, like, PLSQL on your database or some other complex behavior, like you can never fully emulate that in H2. But then like a tool like test containers came out where you can spin up a Docker container and like have that exactly match like what your database is. Like if you're a really mature company, like, hopefully your database team or your other teams would be creating images of like your database or whatever service. And you can then use that within your test, and you could actually be like, okay, no, we're exactly testing what our database would look like, not the real data, but you could just have that within the test. So like that's gotten like so much better, which is also great for then reliability, because like that was also an issue. It's just like, I would be trying to write tests and then we would call out to like our QA database, but then like the data would change or something. And that would just be so difficult to work with. And then there'd be a bunch of kind of tests of like we were talking about, like timing out, like, how do you handle if this transaction takes too long? Like you couldn't do that without like messing with the database itself. So that's some of the nice things you can do now with automated testing much more easily than you could before.
So we have to search in YouTube for Billy Corando and JUnit tests, right? Maybe there's some.
Yes, there should be a number of presentations. Obviously they're going to be a little bit out of date. But yeah, actually, I even think that's what I did with like a Pluralsight course, like way back when. That was a whole lot of work. But yeah, that was also very helpful as well. But yeah, writing things. And surprisingly, people still seem to watch it, which is like, that's like really out of date now. But I think, but yeah, automated testing is something that's very important. Something I wish I knew about earlier in my career, because that probably would have also definitely helped me a number of times.
Okay, what happened then? So how you applied to IBM? So how you started at IBM? So what was the transition?
Yeah, so actually that goes back to like that JUnit 5 presentation. I submitted to present at DevNexus, which is a really big community-run Java conference in Atlanta, and they accepted me. So like that was like my first like really big conference I did. And from there, I got to know Pratik Patel, who's one of the people who helps run that conference. And great guy, someone I remember like when I first met him, it's just like, it's someone like you can immediately start talking to, like, oh, I've known this person for like 5 years, even though I just met him, like a day ago. But yeah, I got to know him. And then like I later on that year spoke at the Atlanta Java Users Group. And when I was there, I was just kind of mentioned to him like, hey, I'm actually kind of looking to get into doing DevRel. And he's like, oh, well, as it so happens, I'm going to be joining IBM as the lead of their Java DevRel team. And so like a few months later, like he got hired on, and then he hired me on. And that was when I first got into DevRel. And man, that's, a whole different experience. So it's like I went from like only having traveled like, maybe 3 or 4 times a year or something like that to like I was hired on, and then like, first like they flew me out to like San Jose to do training, and then like the very next day after I got back, like I flew out to DC to do like a conference. And then like at that conference, someone is like, "Hey, I got double booked, so can you do my presentation? It's going to be in at JFall in the Netherlands." So it's like all of a sudden it's like I had to like figure out like how to like apply and get all my travel.
You enjoyed that?
Yeah, it was fun. Like it was like a huge experience, and it was also really funny. So JFall, it takes place in like a small Dutch city of Ada, and it's like spelled EDE. So like as an English speaker, like I thought it was just pronounced Eid. But someone then like told me like, oh no, it's pronounced this way. But like between when someone told me this and like a couple of weeks later when I was actually landing and getting into the Netherlands and going through border control, like the border agent, it was just like, where are you going? And I was just like trying to remember. It's like, okay, how do I pronounce it? I was like, I'm going to Erder or whatever. I can't remember, but it's just a horrible mispronunciation. I just remember the border agent just kind of laughed, just like, good luck. so yeah. And then, yeah, I've somehow found my way without too much issue. But yeah. Yeah.
And you are just responsible for Java exclusively at IBM, not Quarkus or WebSphere?
So we talked about Java, but then we also talked about like all of like IBM Cloud.
Okay.
Yeah, IBM did have a cloud platform, which is often surprising to the people I would be presenting at. To be like, I didn't know IBM had a cloud. Like, yeah. But yeah, that was actually very difficult. One of the things I definitely learned from my time there as a DevRel is that like it's pretty important to try to keep somewhat focused on what you talk about, because there, like I was trying to talk about Java, I was trying to talk about Spring, but then I was also doing like DevOps and Kubernetes and like all this stuff. And like, it was so stressful because like trying to talk about like, that's like a huge surface area. And like, I mean, some people are like extremely smart and can keep up on all of it. Like I wasn't that person. So like, it was extremely stressful doing like presentations because like so often I felt like I was maybe only like half a step in front of the audience I was talking to. Like, I mean, some topics I was, much stronger at, but like other topics, if I was doing like a presentation in Kubernetes, I'd just be like, please, no one ask me a difficult question because like I'm not going to be able to answer it. And so at least like now, one of the things like I tried to with my current role here at Oracle.
How long you stayed at IBM?
So I was there. So I started in September 2018, and then unfortunately they laid off our entire team at the start of 2021. And then, but luckily I knew Shar and Chad. Ironically, I met them at the best conference name ever, Lava One in Hawaii. Chris Thallinger used to run that. But yeah, I met them at one of those. And when they found out that I was
Lava One, you said?
Yeah, Lava One. So yeah, they only did it for a few years. So I went there.
What was it? I never heard about that.
It's an unconference.
Okay.
So I don't know if you know Chris Thallinger. He used to work with Twitter. He was on the JVM team. He was like a true digital nomad for a few years there. But yeah, he organized it in Hawaii. And I went to the first one in 2018. And so I got to meet like a lot of really great speakers and Java luminaries when I was there. Then I went again at the start of 2020 before the whole COVID thing happened. And so I also got to like meet like Shar and Chad when I was there. Chad Arimura and Shar Chander. But yeah. So that was very important because, when I got laid off from IBM, they were able to bring me on to my current role here at Oracle. I started here in March. So it's actually just been 4 years now, just recently at Oracle, March of 2021. But yeah, at least one thing that I've kind of learned is like it's good to kind of keep a bit focused. So like I just focus on the JDK. Like I don't really get too much into like Oracle OCI, just because it just starts to get to be, it spreads you too thin, because like cloud is a very vast area. But yeah, it makes things a bit easier doing presentations. Like, if I'm doing a presentation or, any presentation, there's rarely going to be someone who's going to know more about it in the audience. I mean, there definitely will be sometimes, but that definitely lowers the stress level during a presentation.
And what do you focus on JDK? Because you, I think, Anna, right, and you all focus more or less on Java. So you have a specific areas, or
so I do like some observability tools like JFR. That's like one thing I've really kind of got into. I kind of got into it because I really wish I knew about JFR earlier in my career, because that definitely could have helped when trying to track down some issues like like memory leaks and other kinds of resource leaks. So I do that. Also kind of got into garbage collection. So like I've done like presentations and content on like the GDC, G1, and that. Couple other things like I'm getting a little bit into is like, one thing that's that's being implemented now is Leiden. So, Java is famous or infamous for having a comparatively longer startup time than something like Java or JavaScript or Python. Because like, you have to set up the VM, and then like the VM would also have like a time where, when you first started an application to like having a longer running, like it would actually get more efficient because the JIT would optimize your code. So to kind of address that startup and ramp up time, the JDK engineers, they're working on Project Leiden, which is allowing you to like, it can record what your JVM does during its runtime, put into a cache, and then on subsequent startups, it can read from that cache. So I've been kind of working with that as they've been working on that project. So that's
your focus is the Leiden, then observability, so JFR, Java Mission Control, and And I really enjoy your YouTube screencasts or videos. So
thank you, I appreciate that.
And using the same background, is it actually real, the background, or
So this is I live in a condo in downtown Kansas City. It's like a loft. So like this used to be kind of like a warehouse way back when. And then actually a long time ago now, back in like the 80s, they actually converted this into apartments. So it has a nice industrial looking background to it.
So if someone sees you at YouTube, the background is real. So
yes, it's not using a virtual background.
I never was in Kansas. There are some conferences, Java user group in Kansas. So what's about Kansas?
Yeah. So I actually helped with running the local Java users group. And actually we're going to be having our presentation here next week as well. And also we have the KCDC, the Kansas City Developers Conference. And so I started helping out with that back in, was it 2021, I think, or 2022. So we actually, I think, it was 2021. We actually did have, we were in the first conferences to kind of get back, and like we had to have like all the COVID measures about like everyone wearing masks, and that was a bit of a difficult one to do. But I started helping out with them in 2021.
How big is the conference, the KCDC?
So our pre-pandemic peak was like, I think just under 2,000.
Wow.
And our most recent one was, I think, about 1,700. So we're hoping to maybe actually get to like about 2,000 this year. That's kind of like one of our goals for this year.
That's crazy. This is actually a big conference.
Yeah, no, it is actually a really big, well-run conference. And like, I really give a lot of credit to a lot. So after when we kind of came back from the pandemic, a few of the organizers, they decided like, they wanted to step back and do other things. But then there was a couple organizers that then brought myself and several of us on to help run it. but I kind of really give it so much credit of KCDC to these earlier organizers because they really did a great job of like setting the atmosphere in the community for KCDC, because like KCDC really had a great reputation before I even came on, because some people like would talk about it, like they would come there and be like, wow, it's a really great conference to go to speak at and be a part of. And like they wouldn't know I'm from Kansas City. Like I didn't tell them like I'm from Kansas City, or at just earlier before the pandemic, I kind of helped out with this sort of Java content. But yeah, no, it's been really great. I've been happy to be a part of it and kind of help continue building it out and helping to continue making that community aspect. But like I said, I definitely give so much credit to like some of the previous organizers and some of the current ones as well. That kind of really helped set that tone, and I'm just happy to be a part of that. But yeah, that stuff is coming up. So KCDC will be here in August. Wait, I should know that 12th through 15th, or is it 15th through 18th? I should probably know that offhand. It's the middle of August, which unfortunately is not a great time to be in Kansas City because it's extremely hot.
Okay, how is the weather in Kansas City, or climate? Is it hot in summer and cold in winter, or what's?
Yeah, unfortunately, so like we're pretty much in the dead center of the U.S., which means we're like very much landlocked, which that means we don't have like any large body of water to like modulate our temperatures. So yeah, during the winter it can get very cold. So we can get even into negative Fahrenheit, which is like negative like 15, 20 Celsius or something like that. And then in the summer we can get days of 100 degrees Fahrenheit as well, which is what, like I think 30 or 40 Celsius or something like this. So like it gets, yeah, we get very cold and also
so
very hot
climate, right?
Yeah, very much.
And lots of rain? No rain?
Yeah, we like the spring and fall, we get a decent amount of rain. Not like any super noteworthy amount. Our winters, like we get like maybe a couple of snowstorms, but nothing huge. Like if we ever get like 6 inches, like that's a really like our, that'd be like a big snowstorm for like a couple of years or something like that.
Interesting. KCDC. Yeah. So, and my observation is also the entire team at Oracle, you really have fun. So you're hanging around, at the conferences, and which is, and the content looks fresh and nice. So you have lots of fun, creating the content, which is also for Java is great, really, because all the programming language, Oracle is also, I would say, from outsiders, maybe not as, how to call it, fashionable company, right? So, but the content is great and fresh.
Yeah, no, we've really done a lot of work on continuing to improve our YouTube channel. Like, definitely don't go back like 3 or 4 years. Like, I kind of look back at some of those videos, I'm like, those we've definitely really improved. But that's a lot of credit goes to like really all of our team, but like particularly like David and Nikolai for kind of really pushing us to, and Jose for all kind of particularly really pushing us to improve our video content and video quality. Cause it's been fun. It's nice. And like, it's really great also to hear like people like, at Java One, like a lot of people talked about how much they like our content, or like sometimes like I see on social media, I guess usually like on Reddit or something, like someone like recommends like something I did. I'm like, oh, like people actually do see value in it, which is like always great. Cause I remember also sometimes when I was at IBM, like I would work on some blog articles. And like, I remember like one particular time, like I was working on like some blog article for like, entire week. Like I put like 40 hours into it and I posted it, and I'm pretty sure like it only got viewed like 12 times or something like that. So it's very satisfying to like post a video and like the amount of time people spent watching it is like way more time.
But there were the 12 global CTOs who read it,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 12 huge really.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I try to tell myself that, but that's definitely one thing that's nice. It's like a lot of the content I work on now, like I know it's going to get viewed a lot. It's just like, okay, good. It's like, it's like a real good like return on investment, even if it's just like purely personal and not necessarily about hitting some sort of
But you have
external
still hard time because Layden and Mission Control are not as popular topics like, I don't know, gatherers or whatever, right? Because this is not as this like non-functional aspects are never as popular as the other shiny stuff, right?
No, but like some of that stuff does have a long tail to it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
yeah, like you're right. Like if I did like a video on Stream Gatherers and another one on JDK Mission Control, yeah, like the Gatherers would probably definitely like over like the next month would get like say like 10,000 views, where the JMC may only get like 2,000. But like that JMZ one or JMC may have like a long tail where like a year from now people will still be watching it, where the Gatherers. So yeah, it varies. Actually, I've been needing to do a couple more videos on JMC here, because actually that's been a couple of our most popular videos. What's actually like the most popular video on our channel is the Java rap. So like I think like 10 or 15 years ago, like we
for
put
Java
a bunch
1,
of,
right?
I think so, yeah. But like Nikolai in particular like really hates that that's the most popular video on our channel, and like he's like waiting for the day when it finally gets surpassed. But like before that,
I always observed Nikolai dancing to the music from the video. No,
I'm pretty sure that is
Nikolai is this is his official take, but unofficial he loves that. You know, he dances and
And I think that's a lot of people are saying that he actually really likes that video and dances to the music. So
who like to have the version 2 because he hates it because he was not in the video. No,
I think that's probably it. Also, that really sounds like Nikolai, that he's just really actually upset that he wasn't in the video.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of Java 1, so you attended the Java 1 this year, and I didn't attend it in Las Vegas, so I have no opinion on that. But it was a strange experience for me because this Java 1 was completely different to all the others Java 1 I attended actually, and there was nothing to criticize. So I wanted to find something, but I couldn't. The only thing is that I couldn't submit my slides as PDF. This is the only thing which I can criticize. But what I did is I renamed .pdf to .ppt and submitted my slides and said, okay, this was my hack. Yeah. But this was the only. Everything else, I mean, if you compare this Java 1 with the first one, the first one was like 30,000. I was in 2000. I don't know about the first one. My first one was in year 2000. It was that big, like 30,000 developers, but it was huge. Content was great. But I would say the attention to detail was not as great as this one, right? Food was terrible, I remember. And it was just, it was the first one. So, and the laters, Java 1s, were more, I would say, they were also too big. And food was never great. Coffee was never great. But I didn't care about the food and coffee because it was just about the content. But this one, the coffee was way better than hotel, actually. So it was great. The filter coffee. On top of that, there was cappuccino. But I say cappuccino is a special one. It doesn't scale. But, the filter coffee was great. This was my opinion first. Then even the cookies were from local whatever. So local suppliers. Food was great. I never cared about the food, but this one was so good that it actually I had to mention this because it was way better than all the other Java 1 together. Small details, the stickers and the coasters and posters and small. The attention to detail was incredible. Then the content was nice. Everything was relaxed. You have still time, to have a chat between the session. So I was really amazed how good it was.
Yeah, no, I was really happy as well. So, again, a lot of credit goes to Chad and Sar and many others, but they put in a lot of long hours in putting that together. I definitely know there was times myself and other people on the team were very nervous about what it was going to be like, because one of my concerns was that it was going to feel very corporate. Because we've all been to those very corporate run event conferences, and it's just that overwhelming feeling of corporateness. And I was worried that was going to be the case. And I also remember when we kind of decided upon the theme, I wasn't necessarily for it because a big theme was like we had like all the little stickers and all that stuff, because like that's a big thing for a lot of developers. Like they put stickers on on their laptops and all that stuff, and so like we were trying to play on that theme. And I was joking that, like, you know, it felt like there's that Steve Buscemi, how do you fellow kids do meme, with he's like has like the skateboard and snow guy, and like I was worried that that's what it was going to come across as, but no, it really didn't. Like it really went together really well. Like about a month out, it's like, okay, like, you know, it's going to be at least pretty good. Like, you know, it may not be great, but, you know, people are going to be happy with it, and we're going to probably be able to do it for another year. But no, like it really all together came together very well. Like I said, the content was really great. Unfortunately, I didn't even see too much of it. I was, along with the other DevRels, just constantly running around. I was helping out Jose. He put together a couple of hands-on labs, and I helped him out with the running of them. And then we also had live streams that we were doing. And so like that was like one of the busiest weeks. Like we were waking up at like 5 a.m., going to bed about 11 p.m.
Yeah, this is normal for all the other Java ones, because the other Java ones, you attended one before?
So I never actually attended an official Java one until the one in Vegas. So the first sort of Java one I attended was actually when they renamed it to Oracle Code One back in 2018. And that's kind of, you know, a little bit of like the worry kind of back then is like, you know, it had a very corporate feel to it. If you went to that one. But that was the first one I went to. I also was there in 2019. And then, well, obviously, like the next few years, you know, until 2022, then that's when we kind of revived the Java One brand. And then one of the big goals for this year was actually having to be independent of any other Oracle event, just because when we had it in Las Vegas, that was attached to Oracle Code World, but like our Oracle World. But, you know, it's just kind of like an add-on to it. It wasn't by any means a main event, because the Oracle Code World, like that was, you know, like 10,000 people, and that was like their big corporate conference. But, you know, then we had just like this little weird Java thing off to the side. So yeah, it was really nice to have like our own event that we had a lot more control over. Like I said, I'm glad to hear that how well it was received. Like that was a very gratifying, all the time we put into that.
and then I was thinking maybe just I'm strange, and I started to ask, you know, all the attendees, you like Java 1, how you like it? And there was no negative, really, nothing negative.
Yeah.
So all the others. And another stunning thing is, so I delivered some talks at the previous Java ones, and my idea was like to modernize one of the older ones. And then I asked, thankfully, you know, who is the first time here? It was like 2/3 was the very first Java one. So I said, okay, this doesn't make any sense. So this is like fresh topic. And and this was also stunning that new developers, which is great. I mean, which means next year it can even grow, because, you know, the old timers, maybe they will come back because they heard how good it was. And it maybe, I'm really curious what happens next year. Maybe it should not grow too fast, because this one was great. And the next concern will be if it grows too fast, maybe it was not as great as the first one. And another opinion is it was a huge mistake from Oracle that they renamed Java 1 to something else, because Java 1 was huge brand, you know, and renaming that to Oracle Code, whatever, it was a huge loss. This was a marketing disaster. I was saying this here. Yeah, from Oracle, so you don't have to say anything, but this is my personal my personal opinion. And but this one was really and it was different, but still great. So this was interesting. And my plan was actually, I had a lot to do for my project. Say, okay, I promise that I will come back to Java 1, but it will be not good. So I will attend a few sessions and I'll work in the hotel the entire time. But what happened was I had jet lag, and I had enough time in the night to work, and I spent the entire day, you know, at the Java 1, and I attended all the sessions in the auditorium from the Oracle people. And even, you know, the Oracle engineers were really passionate and excited. So this was even, you really felt, you know, and they're the people who delivered, you know, several Java 1 sessions, and they were still excited to be back at the Java one at Oracle. So it was interesting.
Yeah. No, I am very happy with how it went, and like that's also as the conference is happening, we would go up to various attendees, both people we didn't know, and then also people that we did know that we also would be confident that would give us honest feedback. And yeah, it was consistently, very positive. There was a few things that kind of went wrong there or something, but of course that just happens with every conference. But
weather was not nice. It was cold.
Yeah, it was a little bit cold. Yeah, a little bit colder than what people were expecting. But it was very satisfying to hear back from people who also would run conferences that like they thought everything went really well. Because you put a lot of work into conferences. They're very difficult to organize and put together, and then also the week of is a bunch of work as well. And so to hear people were really happy with it was like, okay, good. Good. We didn't put this all together and then everyone didn't like it and we're never doing it again. So yeah, we're looking forward to it. I don't think we can make any quite official announcements yet for next year, but I think we're very much aiming towards having it back again next year and, continue, make it even better and for next year as well.
Even better. I'm curious. So listen, I have to invite you back and to talk about Leiden, JMC or whatever like. So whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And just have higher or lower level talk about topics, because observability is also important in my projects also. And JMC is great and JFR, but they are highly underappreciated. So I would say in projects they're not widely used and they come for free.
Yeah.
You have for free real-time monitoring with custom events, and the observability is actually incredible, and it is underused in projects. So we have to chat about that later and whatever like.
Absolutely, that sounds great. Yeah, I would love to talk about those. I absolutely agree. They are vastly undercovered subjects. So yeah.
Where people can find you, your team or whatever you like.
Oh man. So yeah, definitely. I think our YouTube channel, so just youtube.com/Java. We're posting multiple videos there. My camera just went out. Luckily that doesn't matter on a podcast. So yeah, we're posting multiple videos there. Actually, we just posted your recording from Java 1, which is, I think, actually doing pretty well there. I'm not too much on social media anymore, kind of since Twitter went downhill.
No Blue Sky?
I'm on Blue Sky. I think it's at Billy Corando, but I'm not super active on there right now. Also, we have our website, dev.java as well. So we post a lot of content there as well. So yeah, that would be, and insight.java. So that's another place where we post content. So yeah, those would be places to find us.
So thank you a lot. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Absolutely, Adam. And hope we do it again here soon.
We have to wait until it uploads. So I have to stop.